From Sydney, Australia, all the way to Portland, USA, two misfits hang out after class to riff on the B-sides of professional life. These are your Professional Misfits. All the way from Sydney, Australia, I am your host, Christopher Sellers.
And from Portland, Oregon, I'm Brody Ipox.
And we are your Professional Misfits. Hello, friends. Episode 2 of Season 2 of the Professional Misfits. Today, we're asking the question, what makes a good business partner? Last week, we talked about, work relationships. Have you had some? Sometimes working with your partner works out. Sometimes it doesn't. Aren't we all adults? Can't we all figure it out for ourselves without, being litigated? Today, let's get into it. Like, what actually makes a good business partner? Brody, we're building this thing. We're building the Misfits, in a partnership, in a professional capacity, the most unprofessional professional podcast anyone's ever come across. Let's start with us. Like, are we a good example? Are we a good template? Are we good business partners?
Oh, dude. See, that's unfair. Because look,
because you gotta be nice. You gotta.
No, listen, because I could even come at parts where shit. Never mind. I can't. I was gonna say I could even come at parts where we have had issues, and even in the what people would perceive as issues have never been an issue with us. It's been a conversation.
I was gonna say, like, have we?
No, and that's what I mean. There's never been a thing, like there's been back and forth collaboration.
We never fight. It's always perfect. He always cuddles me after. It's the best.
It sounds ridiculous, I know, but like it's people. If once they get into Patreon, once you get an inside look at this, like you'll really begin to understand that number one, it's possible. It's fucking possible. That's I think the biggest thing that's permissible here is like it is actually possible. You can fucking do this thing, and you can do it in a way that's enjoyable. Who would have thought?
Yeah, I think we talked about it often. I don't know if we mentioned it last season, but our approach to the building the Misfits so far has been it's work, but it's not a chore. Mm-hmm. And that's and that's sort of where we come to building this. So I guess a more fair question to ask then, rather than just be self-serving, is what makes it work then? If we've got through season 1, for instance, and most podcasts don't get past episode 3. Mm-hmm. And now we're into season 2, and we've expanded and we're building, and there's Patreons and there's more content, and so we're not just skating by, we're looking to level up and take it places to build a channel. So if this is going to be a business, and if we're co-hosts and 50-50 in this thing, what, in your view, makes it work? Like, what's the relationship? What's the skill sets?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, that's it right there. So it's the relationship and the skill sets. And within that, the communication is one thing that I really wish I could actually give people a good, solid inside look. And you and I have talked about this, whether that's live workshops, whether when we're working on stuff or our pre-production meetings or things like that. And gauge that conversation. Because again, like you said, as unprofessional as we get on the podcast, there's a level of professionalism that I think people would be surprised by. And, I do a little work within a podcast agency, and I'll tell you now.
He does a lot of work, folks, in a podcast agency.
And the thing is, look, I'll tell you this. I'd say 70% of the shows that I've worked on don't have that vision, right? And now that's the second piece of that, right? So we have the relationship, and then we have the skill set. So what's in common though within those two skill sets, for me in anyways, is there's a level of vision. I think you can get involved with someone in a partnership or in an endeavor, and you're going to hit a plateau. You're going to hit a plateau. You're going to feel it. It's going to feel like you're running on a treadmill. That's uncomfortable. And then you can either get comfortable in that, or it ends most of the time.
So that's something I want to jump in on to, just to get something constructive, because you talked about relationships and skill sets. Now,
Mhm.
arguably, most people will start a business with their friend
Yeah.
or their
Hmm.
girlfriend or their husband or their partner. Or I'm going to
Hmm.
start it with someone I like,
Yep.
right? And you talked a little bit about that in the previous episode. Like, started something with my best friend,
Yep.
turned into a fucking nightmare because we couldn't. So what's what's important here? Like, what can we constructively pull out that, like, if I'm going to this with a friend with the best of intentions, because obviously they're my friends and I like them and they like me and we all want the best for each other, but like, what practical skills? And if you're talking about a vision, like, what is that for you? Because I know we're talking about the context of a podcast, so people can sort of match what we're talking about with the format and have a sense of it. But you could be getting any sort of tech startup, you could be starting a
Hmm.
restaurant, you
Hmm.
could be whatever it happens to be. So if you're looking at if you're coming to the table with a particular view or passion or skills, what do you need a partner? And B, if so, what's going to make a healthy long-term relationship? So I'll start to answer my own question here while you're thinking. So the
Please.
the skills is a very good um, observation, but here's what I think separates a good or decent business from an exceptional one: is you actually want a partner who has different skills to you,
Yep.
right? So let's say you're running a restaurant, because it's a really simple analogy. And if you're a chef, you don't want to hire a friend that's a chef. You want to hire a friend that's an accountant,
Yep.
or you want to hire a friend that's going to work the front of house, right?
Fortify.
So you can be friends, you can align on the vision, but you actually want someone that you can trust to manage the skills of the area of the business that you don't have expertise on. Now, the example I give is Brody in this case. So I talked about it in episode 10, but Brody is the marketing algorithm, social media god behind the scenes. He's Vishnu with the 12 arms, putting all the contents everywhere. I have no understanding or interest or inclination for any of that shit. So what makes this work is that basically I can take care of a lot of the front end, a lot of the content, funnily enough, the graphic design, the landing page, all this sort of shit, layout, all the production stuff, even drive this podcast, as you may have noticed. And Brody takes care of all of the back end. And in terms of skill sets, we haven't really overlapped. Now, whether this is, like you mentioned, I think previously, whether this is intuitive in terms of I can take care of this and that, and you can take care of this and that, great. Because obviously, there's conflict when you've got two chefs in a kitchen and they both want to cook something.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So, is that a fair sort of assessment on my part?
Fucking beautifully put. This front end back end thing, and that's kind of what I would like to highlight to people is, fortify to your weaknesses, and that's part of that's going to be part of the themes in all this relationship. I already sense it.
Mm.
Is can you be an adult? Can you
It's the
can
theme
you
of the
come
season. Can you be an adult? Yeah.
Hey, can I come to the table and say, as your partner in this endeavor, this is my strong suit. This is what I see. This is why I see it. Give you the information and then trust in your skill set, provided the information that we can move forward together in alignment. That's the biggest
Mm.
thing. And communication, I hate to simplify it to that, but that's the biggest thing I think between you and I. Again, I think we both have a level of awareness that is past self imposed thoughts. where it's I create this and subjectively I might feel a certain way about it,
Yeah.
but I'm going to show you it anyways. And that subjective piece in my mind, I'm not going to listen. You're going to give me the information. And even if you were to fall exactly in line with that subjective thought, I know you're not coming at it from the angle that my brain is telling me that you are. And I don't know, again, if that's experience, if that's just choice, or, what to give someone practically that they can
Yeah.
take away. But really, it's truly just deciding that. And we talked about this a little bit in, episode 1. We're on a team here. We're on a fucking team. Like you're my teammate. There's not at one point in time where we're tackling an issue or a subject matter or a project, and I look at you in opposition. There's we're and that's
Right.
a weird mindset to
But
set yourself in that.
but to be fair, it took you a little bit to get me on board, didn't it? Like in the beginning. So for the folks at home who might not know the backstory, but there was originally a third person who brought Brody and I in to start a podcast with the three of us, and basically it didn't work out. And then Brody came to me about a week or so later and said, "Hey man, I can't let go of this idea. Would you be interested of the two of us doing it?" And I said, yes, well, relationship first, yes, Brody, I would work with you. Now, putting that aside, and this is a little bit what we talked about last week, professionally, as a business, what is this thing? What's it going to be and where are we going? Right? Because we've all met someone who wanted to do a podcast to help people. And creatives are the worst. Creatives are absolutely the worst because, I'm interesting enough. I have a personality. We're great friends. We can talk about whatever. People will listen. And if you're a professional creative, that's categorically untrue. You also know that that's masturbation, and you can do that in your private time. Not everybody has to watch you. You're not as interesting as you think you are. So
right.
that was my creative skepticism. Now, to Brody's credit as a business partner, is he saw an opportunity and a niche that I didn't and I was unaware of. So do you want to talk about how you conned me into coming onto this thing?
Well, you know what? For the listeners, I'd be curious to keep it in line to hear what it was for you first, and
All right,
then
yeah.
I can facilitate. Because I know subjectively what it was for me, but what was it for you? What?
Yeah, look, it's let me backtrack to 3, 4, 5, 6 months ago. I look, the idea of me hosting a podcast previously has been floated to me, but it was never anything that I was interested in. It was always, why do we need another podcast? Like, what the fuck would I talk about? I have a hard enough time explaining creativity to people who get it, right? So, and there's a lot of podcasts out there which are completely self-serving, which is just not my jam. And so when you came to me, what we did agree on in the original version was that these behind the scenes conversations about professional life, the B-sides of professional life, no one's having that conversation. And why not? That's the scary thing. So we were already on the same boat there.
Yep.
The different, this is my analogy that I've used with Brody the whole journey, right? Is I bought my ticket. I'm on the boat. I don't know where we're going. Brody has charted a course, and it's like then there's an oasis that will follow the sun and the stars and all this sort of shit. And I'm like, okay, so I know I'm on a boat. I know I'm going on a journey. I'm trusting in Brody for the direction, and we'll get there when we'll get there. In the meantime, I'll enjoy the ride, and I'll contribute what I can as best I can. And to his point, it's been. When I design, for instance, when I design the landing page, it's like, what do you think of this? Is this on point? Whenever we restructured, you might have seen the new video intro. You might have seen all the new logos, all this sort of stuff. When I designed all of that, it's like, what do you think? So it wasn't an arbitrary thing. It was like, we're building this for the two of us. I want your input. What's going to work best?
Highly collaborative.
Right. So it's interesting. Is that real fine line of you have control of this, and I trust you with it, and vice versa. I have control of this,
Yep.
but we'll still feed back in and check in. I guess to what your point was is like to make sure that the vision and the direction that we're going is staying aligned, rather than one chef's cooking French toast, one's cooking Chinese stir fry.
Yep.
Um, that's
Yeah.
yeah, that's how it's been for me.
Yeah. And look, I'll say this. I think to your original question, what was the selling point? Where's the vision? Where's the end goal? If you want to get that answer, we are building on Patreon. I want you guys to know, as listeners, this is not a pitch to you. This is kind of the point of how I sold Chris. There's a very linear path here that you can follow. And when someone is subject to the experiment of, they become a framework. And we have a very unique opportunity here to become a framework in an industry and a content platform that is booming. And if we pull it off and we do it right, there's no reason that it doesn't serve to our credibility to help you guys do the same.
Mm.
And whether that's with fucking knitting or sports or
Or anything.
antiques,
Yeah.
anything, yeah, I don't care. Is as long as it facilitates that authentic voice. And then again, if you go to the Patreon and you get to see behind the scenes what we're actually doing in this path and with this vision, there's a structure here that can serve almost anybody in a ton of different ways.
Mm.
And that's what we're looking to do and share and help facilitate. And it just I think when I explained to you that there was something behind at the end of the tunnel, when there is a
Yeah.
destination for
Yeah.
things like this, I think that's when I saw it click for you. Because look, that's I think the common conception for a lot of people here. And this is again falling back to the theme of the or title of the episode is what makes a good business partner. Is it's also falls on your ability to interpret what I am saying to you. You being able to intake information is fucking fundamental, because I
Mm.
could give you all this. People have this. It's in blogs. It's on the internet. It's if you look deep enough, it's there and you can find it. But to grasp it is different,
Mm.
and that's where, I'll have to give you a little pat on the back, because that's something that you do very well. When you're given information, I find you, not just in interpreting it in your own personal sense. And I think that's again where a lot of people go wrong, is they just take it in a personal sense and not
Mm.
for what it is as the wide picture. You do, and then it clicks and you go, oh shit, now I can apply my creative process here because it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm looking to do for people. Is like, I just want you to understand, right, that this is a possibility. And we aren't just going out and throwing content to the wind. There's a plan
Mm.
here, and if you follow the same framework, you might just have the same fucking results or better. And that's a pretty unique thing.
There's You've mentioned it once, and I know it comes up a lot in business talk. Is this the concept of sort of trusting your partner? And without being esoteric, I guess what it means for me and for us is trust is reciprocal. It's got to be given, and taken and respected, and then in turn given back. So a really really simple example is that Brody and I will sit down every Monday and have our pre-production meeting of how the week's going to go and what we need to have done. And by the end of that, we've excuse me, laid out task. Brody's like, I've got my homework, it's this and this, and I've got my homework and it's this and this, and it's done.
Yep.
It's not. I'm not following up on Brody to go, hey, so about that thing, like, where are we at, and just how you're traveling, and do you need me to, like, no, this, none of that, and vice versa. There's never Brody's not hovering over my shoulder, saying, where's this design? Can we just tweak this thing? Can we, fix all the little infinitesimal shit? And because of that, and this is why I mention it, because it's important, is because trust compounds. And what you find, especially if you're working with creatives, is that because Brody trusts me and my process and my work and what I want to bring to this thing, I can then be proactive in finding things of my interest that we hadn't talked about. So there might be ads running by this point, and one of them will be a promo reel I designed for fun, because I said to him, like, hey man, I had this idea. Here's how we're going to launch the Patreon. What do you think? Right.
Yep.
So this wasn't a, hey, do a task, or like, hey, do you think, right? And so picture it this way, like if you're in leadership, or if you're going to start a business or want to be a business, imagine that you could establish a culture, establish relationships where the people that you're working with are proactive in building your business to be the most effective, original, unique concept that it can be. Now, is this not the sorts of cultures that people fucking strive for?
Oh,
Is that fair to
100%.
say, B?
Oh, yeah. And, I tell you all the time, I use the phrase, I'm not trying to blow smoke. I've been in so many scenarios. And likewise, you have as well. You've done this contracting gig for some
Yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
We've been around the block. We know it's not like this anywhere
Which is
else.
why we also knew the first one wouldn't work.
Right.
Let's
100%.
so we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, go on.
Yep. Yep. And the thing is, how did you phrase that? That was wonderful. Trust compounds, right? And within that compounding, what happens, and I think the way that you were expressing it and the way that I perceive it is that confidence builds as well. And again, it goes back to that proactivity, because I'm confident in what I'm doing. I now see things that I'm not putting constraints on myself. I'm not putting blinders on because Chris is over here going to say this. I'm not. Again, it's almost like we don't stand in each other's way, right?
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it.
And I think that's where a lot of people get mixed up. I think that's where a lot of people get mixed up. And what's funny is they think that you even have to stand side by side. Well, I mean, you look to your left or right, then you're standing in each other's way, right? We have our own spaces. You said that well when we were talking about skill sets. And again, the trust applies into that, and the confidence that you have control over your space is, fuck, dude, I wish I could give that to people, because that's worth its weight in gold.
Yeah, look, and that's worthwhile mentioning, because it would be naive to say get a good friend with different skill sets and you'll be fine. Like there's okay, what's something else that's going to make a good,
right. You're right.
What's something else that's going to make a good business partner? Look, a level of experience to whatever they bring, right? A level of competency. We've talked about trust. We've talked about differing skill sets. Look, here's one. Obviously, if it's the difference between a business and a hobby is how's this going to make money?
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Now, and again, now this is something else that Brody had to educate me on, because I live in the world of like, who the fuck is going to pay anything to listen to anyone, let alone us?
Yep.
And Brody had it called early, like almost the beginning of season 1. Is like, no, season 2 is Patreon and everything else. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, and we're going to run ads. And I'm like, the fuck? So I'm getting dragged completely out of my comfort zone. But at least I had the, call it self-awareness that I don't have Brody's expertise. Like, Brody builds podcasts and marketing channels professionally for a living. That's his jam. So I got to trust Brody and his expertise and input on that. And I take my hands off and go, okay, bro, if this is the direction we're going to go, how can I help shape this thing to reach to drive us where you want to take us, right? And then that was interesting when we had the strategy chat only a couple of weeks ago, because you came to me with the analytics of like, here's what I'm thinking, but Chris, I don't want to give you any more than that. I just want you to feed back to me and have your little creative juice, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So he gives me the sketch and then the paint by numbers, but doesn't give me any of the coloring pencils. And then I just want you to do what you want to do, because he's figured out by now he doesn't have to do anything.
That was a good example. That was a really good example. And that's weird, because that's when you start to understand that if you're in a good position like that, you can find, a good partnership. It almost becomes habitual, right? I'm stoked that you realize that, because that was a real conversation Chris and I had.
Yeah.
And for us to come to that spot where it's like, it's just natural. It's just natural. It's not, it's just that handoff and that succession of trust, and it's, yeah, again, that's where I really wish I could sit people, is find people you can trust. I mean, truly trust. And like you said, there's layers to that. Okay. And again, we're adults here. We can identify that this thing's complex. We're talking business. We're talking partnership. This is never going to be easy. Okay. And even with circumstances where Chris and I talk at such, high appreciation for the fact that it is easy. Like he said, we came from a failed podcast, and that was Chris and I together in a scenario. So there's gonna be
that was Chris saying, "No, I won't be doing this anymore," and calling it. And poor Brody was the third wheel who went, "What the fuck happened?" And I said, "I'm really sorry, man, but I can't do this." Yeah.
Should we talk about that a little bit?
Well, okay, Here's what we'll do. Well, I'll give one last example, and then we can talk about what doesn't make a good business partner. And by contrast, you'll see what we're talking about. So, like, outside of the podcast, like, I'm also building an app, a fintech app. You can hear all about it on the Patreon and the Misfits documentary. We get right down into it, because at the moment I can't really talk about it. So anyway. But the reason, it's another example of what makes great business partners, is I had this concept, and then I called my friend Robert, who's Swedish, but he lives in Melbourne in Australia. Again, someone I trust, and said, I think I found something. You want to have a look at this? So I pitched it to him over the phone. He's really interested. I cut together 3 explainer videos. He's very, very interested. Robbie just happened to be going back to Sweden in the beginning of June. He says to me, while I'm in Sweden, I think I've got a few people lined up that I'd like to pitch this concept to. Do you mind? And so in the space of 2 to 3 months, we built a landing page on one sheet, a pitch deck, and then Robbie put together the entire financial plan. And then went to Sweden to pitch to investors. Now, in terms of what we were talking about, trust, tick. Different skill sets, tick, absolutely, because I know nothing about financial plans or how to scale any of that. Robert laid out a 3-year financial plan over 5 tabs on an Excel spreadsheet in the space of a day and a half. Fucking ridiculous. The flip side to this is he can say to me, can we get a couple of videos? Can you build a landing page? And I can do that in a day. It's like, oh, we need one more video for investors. So I'll recut everything and put that together in a day.
I know. I was going to say, I feel like this is not fair for the listeners that don't follow through the Patreon journey, because in the context, you guys have to understand the scope of this. When he's talking about, I've done this landing page, I've done these explainer videos, which, by the way, are, when you see them, you'll know that it's just, this guy did this in less than a week. What the fuck, bro? And it's like you said, that level of trust that's very, tangible between you and whoever you're working with. That if I need this, it's there.
Right. And it was a clear delineation. And it was like, I'll do this and I'll have it by this time. And I did. And likewise with Robbie, he's like, I'll do this. And then he goes and pitches, which is great. So anyway, so skill sets, trust, mutual vision. There's 3 key things we can take away as a great example. All right. So now, what makes a bad business partner or a dysfunctional one? Or what are some flags that you should look out for if you're fledgling business startup, whatever, or if you're looking to bring in friends, family, or some random as an investor, who knows? What are some flags? What are some things that we should look out for? I'll go first.
Please.
So in the context of the podcast that never was, right? The original version of this, we were working with a first person. Now, for an apples for apples comparison, we sat down, we recorded a pilot with this person. We then all listened to it back to see how it would go. Brody, 10, 15 years production experience building all the things. Me, 10, 15, production experience performing and writing and designing all the things. This other individual, not the same sort of production experience, but, she brought us together. We listened back to the pilot episode. Her immediate feedback is, I don't like my voice. Can we re-record?
Mm-hmm.
We chatted around for a bit. She was really, really, really uncomfortable. So we're like, okay, we do re-record eventually. So we go back, we re-record, same content, same style, do all of that. Second time round, still doesn't like it. Says to Brody, can we just edit it and whatever? So Brody, again, production experience, you realize that the audio track is all one file. We can't chop and change. Basically, no, it's not an option. The feedback from both of us, mind you, was, your voice sounds fine. I understand your concern because no one likes hearing their voice back. Like, do I really sound like that? You do. It's also, you're the one girl between two men. So men generally have a lower register and you sound fine. You're a perfect complement to what we've got going on here. No. Turns into a complete meltdown. And even to the point of like, okay, Brody was technically laying out, we can't do this. And even if I went through all the files and everything else, it would take a million billion years and would still sound like shit. And her response was, fine, you show me what to do and I'll do it. Which is basically like saying to a wedding photographer, you give me the camera, I'll take the photos. Because you don't know
such a slap in the face. And
what
again,
the fuck you're doing.
That's a perfect example to the lack of trust in who you're working with. She just did not trust what we were saying, did not trust in the skill sets that we have,
or the feedback or anything else. So these were all red flags going along, and this is sort of where these are all red flags going along. What sealed it for me actually was we finally got the pilot in episode 1 in the bag. And we were days from releasing the launch of the podcast.
No, I don't know if you remember, actually. We had pilot, we had episode 1, 2, and then we were coming to record 3. And on the week of recording 3 was our launch. That was because, hey, just so you listeners know, again, this has a vision here. You know what I mean? We have planned things to where, we have space and time to do these things. And again, like, sorry to interrupt, Chris, but
no, yeah.
As he was saying, we were coming right up to launch with 3 episodes already done
already in the bag. And we were days out. That's what we were planning the post. We're planning the LinkedIn post, the shared LinkedIn post. Like, this is how we're going to launch.
Yeah.
So we have an hour-long discussion. Here's the copy. Here's what it's going to be. It's all agreed. We're all going to do this. Great, fantastic. 1 hour long chat, done. We're not out of the meeting more than 5 minutes, and we get a text in the group chat saying, hey, instead of doing that, how about we do this instead? Mm-hmm. And we'd already talked about this, and well, no, not a great idea for all the reasons we talked about. This is much stronger. Well, I just think that, and blah, 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 blah. And again, reiterated everything that we talked about in our meeting. And by this stage, I kind of lost my patience professionally and just said, sorry, we've just had an hour-long meeting where all of this was decided. I don't understand why 5 minutes later, you're now undermining all of this. Like, I'm really frustrated and I'm really kind of pissed. Like, what's going on? And of course, this person took it personally. And then I didn't think I'd be attacked.
Deeply.
And all these sorts of things. So it wasn't about the work. It wasn't about the project. It wasn't about the 3 of us. It was then about her.
We weren't on the team anymore.
No. It was us 2 against her, apparently. And so complete meltdown. And then she unilaterally decided, well, I don't think we should launch tomorrow until we get this sorted. We should delay by another week. And that was the final straw for me. And so I put in the chat and said, look, um, this has sort of been a repeated behavior. I'm going to have to step out of this project. I don't mind if you two want to continue without me, but I can no longer be a part of it. Which, of course, she took that personally as well. It was no longer about the project or the podcast. It was she'd shared things that were personal to her, and she'll never do it again because this is what happens when she's vulnerable. And poor, it's not funny, but all this time,
Chris.
Brody's off doing something with his kids, so he's not checking his phone, right? And so 45 minutes later or something, Brody comes home and is like, the fuck, just that, like the whole house is burned down, a tornado has hit, there's nothing left.
and honestly, at that point, both of you guys were just pissing on the embers. You guys were like, "Fuck."
I was professionally out. I didn't bite back. I didn't anything.
No, I just mean in the sense that it was fucking called. Like I had no, they were done. They were pissing on the fire. It was over. They were walking away from the campsite, you know. And I was like, seriously, I was out to a movie. I get out of the movie. I
What'd you see? What'd you see? Just for fun.
I can't even remember because this fucking this event ruined
just
it.
Soured the entire day.
Ruined it. But I go to my text messages because I felt it in my pocket. But what's funny is when it's WhatsApp and you guys are having a conversation and it's fast enough replies, I get the single buzz between your guys' replies. So I was like, okay, they've said a couple things to each other. This is great. And I was hoping, I was like, they've reached a resolution. they found a resolution.
Worked it all out. Yeah.
And I looked at it, and because the most recent text will come up first, and it was before had responded. Oh, shit!
You said a name.
No. So coming back to that, it was before said person responded, and look, the thing was, all I saw was your first initial line that was like, I'm gonna have to opt out of this, and I was like, what? No, what the? Oh my god! I went back and read, and I was like, how can I blame him? Really, truly, not to be rude, and again, not to be insensitive. This wouldn't matter who this was. This wouldn't matter if we've gotten the bro culture thing before. It wouldn't matter if it's male, female. It wouldn't matter. It just wouldn't matter. The context of the situation was that regardless of whatever information or conversation was had, it was always a personal attack. And that's one thing that I will say in my example of work, you know, the bad shit, right? Working with a partner and it gets yucky. Working with, my best friend, James, that was tough because the thing was we were both, and this can go to show that you can both have strong skill sets. You can both be hard workers, high achievers, and it still be something that's not collaborative. It doesn't matter necessarily, the level of adeptness from one person to the other. It's like you said, does that complement the partnership?
Right. So I was going to ask, can you explain?
Well, I can. So we are, at that time, both of our strengths were sales, and the thing was, you can keep going and acquiring more customers, but if you can't maintain the workload, you're fucked. You're dead in the water. You have a high churn rate, and then anybody that fucking works with you later on, it knows
they'll never work with you again.
They'll never fucking come back to you again, and that's the last thing you fucking want. I knew that, and we were we were there. We were at a high churn rate. We were at fucking high fucking caseload on both sides. It was contention. It was, a level of uncomfortability, not just now professionally, where it was the friendship. It was,
Mm-hmm.
again, and that's where I'm kind of relating this to the circumstance with, aforementioned podcast host. It's, if you can't take the you out of it and become a team, and it's a subjective goal that you're working towards, then no matter what you're doing, if it's something with this level of personal attachment to it, you're gonna feel fucking attacked. You're creating, you're thinking, you're producing, you're displaying, you're here, you're actively seeking fucking, with us, these are not conversations that are had. So we're actively seeking kind of opposition here, and that's a hard mindset to have. And if you have that mindset on top of having a shitty partnership, oh my God, why that's,
Yeah.
could you, and look, let me say this. What can you imagine if we had continued?
Well, yeah, no chance. Because like, what if it took? This isn't. This isn't fair to say, but I'll say it anyway. We got more. We almost recorded an entire season in the space that it took to get 2 or 3 episodes down first
Oh
time round.
God, I mean, think about, and it's small things, guys. Like, so you listeners know, like it can be small things. It doesn't have to be these big things that hold you in opposition to moving forward. We spent a lot of time on the logo, okay? And when I say a lot of time, I mean I'm talking like, I think it was a week total, okay? And talking between three professional creatives that have deep skill sets in design. That's what.
Well, two, and someone else, and their daughter who can draw. Yeah. Um.
And look, that's another piece that I want to say too, is can you come into a situation, and again, it's that team kind of framework, but also within that, within the criticisms and the friction that you're going to feel when someone doesn't like your idea, can you handle that? Because if you can't,
Like,
you're the problem in the partnership, and that's not me being rude or aggressive.
no.
If you're at a stage where you can't,
So
that's
I
a
was trying to
hard
think
ask.
back. It's interesting because I'm trying to think back to the difference in feedback first time around to feedback to now. Because at the time, she was like, "Well, I don't like my voice. We should do it over because X, Y, and Z." So that was her own sort of insecurity and her own self criticism. It wasn't either of us saying you sound like shit. We never. That wasn't us. But then we put out the landing page, and she's like, "Why did you do it like that? And why does mine saying this when yours says that?" I'm like, okay. So you can get a sense that there's a level that we're talking about trust. There's a level of distrust with the people that they're working with, but on the outside, being super friendly, super warm. You're my best friends. I love you guys. It's amazing we're connected, but not actually trusting any decisions we made, professional
Hmm.
choices or
Hmm.
expertise that we have. By
Right.
by contrast, Brody and I, we can talk about strategy, and Brody will come with a plan of like, here's where we're going, here's what we're doing, here's an ad spend, here's everything else. And I will literally say, okay, I know nothing about the back end. Can you explain to me, like I'm a fucking amateur client, why we're doing this? And I will ask all the questions and I will drill and grill. But it's, again, we talked about this last week, to drill and grill the idea and the platform and the strategy. And Brody's like, really glad you asked. And we'll lay this thing out and walk me through it. So for some of us, and in business, you're always going to have this, but for some of us, you've got to ask questions and you've got to be free to challenge what you're doing and why. So for me, I can then put it together and get it. And then once I get it, I go, okay, this is what you're doing. Okay, cool. And then I can sort of see, like, how can I facilitate this thing? So it's not a naivete of saying, I don't know marketing, Brody, you just do it. Because
Hmm.
that's also how you get into problems with money, right?
Yep.
Like, I
Hmm.
don't know accounting and I don't know whatever. So you just do it. And then you find that you've been embezzled for fucking hundreds of thousands of dollars. You
Right.
need a level of awareness.
Yep.
And if you're spending money, it's worthwhile saying, where is this going and why? And I guess let's tag in here, because if you're building a business that separates it from a hobby, you're going to have revenue, income, profit, wages, all those sorts of things. Now, money for a lot of people is a delicate, personal, sensitive sort of matter. So can you talk about it objectively? Can you talk about it within context? Can we openly discuss it? And if and if we're talking about what we were talking about last week, with like, should you work, do you have work relationships? Should you work with your partner? If you're married and then you're then discussing personal and business finances, like, do you separate the two, and how do you separate that out from whatever, right? So, and clearly I can say this: first time round, I could never see this as a commercial venture, despite the talk, despite the dreams, despite the vision of like, oh, what I want to do and who I want to help. That would have been a very long way off. Whereas Brody came with a clear, concise plan of, here's what we're going to do.
Yep.
And because he could come with that framework, I could trust in his guidance. And because here's an unconscious thing, because I've been free to ask questions and challenge where I felt I needed to, without getting shit on or guilted. That's actually why I do trust Brody, because to trust him naively would be stupid, right? Just go, well, Brody knows marketing and I'll trust him. That'd be fucking stupid. But to because he can back it up, and if I can challenge his assumptions or his stats or whatever, and he's got a response, or he's got a rationale, or he says, I don't know, that's what we need to kind of figure out. I'm like, cool. Then without him taking it personally, there's the dynamic.
Right, and it's funny again, without taking it personally, right? Because your challenge or your inquisition to what you say you trust of me, again, which it is still valid trust. You're not distrusting of me by challenging and being inquisitive, and that's part of it, right? I have to know that. I have to know that. I have to know that. Within that, you allow me to champion and concrete my ideas. Now they're not only these things that I've thought about for myself, I'm verbally speaking them, and now I'm working through the process in a much more practical sense as a deliverable, and not so cut and dry as that's how me and Chris operate. Here's this is what it is. But really truly, when there has been, and on both sides, whether it's design on something with the web page, whether it's the secret guest page that was for season 2 that you guys might have seen, all that kind of stuff, this is me trusting and asking and challenging and inquiring from him too. And that, like you said, there's always an explanation. That's again, I think, a big piece of it. One thing that I will say that was even better than that is, as much as there is always an answer, when there's not, there's honesty.
Yeah, yeah.
That's fucking huge. You know what I mean? Like that's like you said, that's when it gets into sticky shit. And it might not even necessarily be you just hand off some shit to someone, right? That's where someone is dishonest and says, "Well, I can handle it." And they fuck your books, and you guys are
See
now
that?
getting
Yeah,
audited for fucking hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it's like the
right.
same fucking situation.
Right. And I'm sure we've all been there, where if you might be working with someone, even in teams, where it's like you've all been assigned a caseload and someone's not pulling their weight. And you figure, well, I'll just knock this out because you're going to take too long and it's going to be shit, or we're not going to get it done. So I've got to pick up your slack.
Yep.
And if you're in, if you're in a business dynamic where that's always the case,
Yep.
then this is, I think we talked a little bit about it, like this is where that resentment and contempt starts to just filter in, and that's cancer.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because it's the little things that you won't talk about.
Right.
It's like you didn't get this done by timelines. So we missed this thing, and just fucking all right, I'll do it. And so far, I can say so far, I haven't had one of those experiences yet. Who's to say that it won't come later for either of us? But so far, 6 months ish, 9 months ish in, so
Yeah.
far so good. It's
Yeah.
still early. We're not making millions. When we're making millions, it might be something else.
Yes, sir. Hey,
Yes,
hey,
sir.
hey, and just so everybody knows, I'll call this shot. This is going to go somewhere. And again, that's a testament to something that I didn't have in the past. And that falls again to the partnership aspect. I've done a lot of this shit alone. I've done a lot of this shit alone. Okay? And I will tell you this. If you can find the partnership that is conducive to both personality types and skill sets, you're going to have momentum that you never would have had before. And Chris and I have talked about this, taking this outside of even the plan that we have with Professional Misfits, because that's kind of the level of, yeah, simplicity, trust, like that we have between each other. And that's rare and it's far and few between. But again, if you can find that, if you can build that, that's where you're centered. You got somebody that has your back. You got somebody that you can communicate with, and shit. On top of the communication, you got somebody you can be honest with, which I think is one of the most important pieces.
And to be really clear with everyone at home, like this, come on, this by no means is a finished product. We're not 10, 15-year vets for this sort of thing. Like right now, this is a really happy, positive experiment.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
me personally, I'm in a really interesting position where I happen to be experimenting with two different guys on two different projects, both of which look like they'll be quite successful. And that's part of my journey this year, is learning how to trust people, which is
Mm-hmm.
not my strong suit at all. It hasn't. It's like I've normally done stuff on my own, because you can't rely on other people, can't trust them, and you're going to fuck it up, and you won't do it as well as I
Yep.
can.
Yep.
So I'll do it, or it's my project and my vision, and you get on my page, and everything will be fine.
Yep.
So this and the app are both projects, experiences, and businesses where I'm learning to trust a co-founder, and I'm lucky or in a fortunate position where both co-founders are reciprocating, and they get me and I get them, and we're easy to work with. And if I have questions, they'll explain and they'll listen. Like Robbie, the same. Like if I have financial questions about what the fuck it is I'm building, uh, he can lay it all out.
Right.
He can lay it all out. And similarly, like he trusts me to take care of what I need to, and I seem to knock it out of the park for him every time. So far so good. And he's just come back within the last today, from Sweden, to pitching to millionaires and billionaires in Sweden. So we'll have that discussion, which you'll find in the Misfits documentary.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
what I'm saying is like, me personally, I'm learning how to be in a healthy business.
Yep.
Not
Yeah.
something I've done
Yeah.
before. Been a contractor. I've been a partnered contractor. Building something with someone is completely new to me. And it's feeling positive and productive and healthy so far. I knew enough to get out of the first round podcast. I knew enough to get out of other things previously. So I know what doesn't work. And part of building anything for yourself, is a good place to start, is working out what doesn't work for you.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, right. Circling back to that first point that we talked about, identifying my weaknesses and fortifying around that. I know where I'm not strong. And again, honesty plays a part in where I'm willing to tell you that. And shit, like you said, it's worked out so far. So I mean, take a shot at it, and you misfits, let us know in the comments like what your
Yeah, I was about to
experiences
say.
have been. Like it's so funny. We have these conversations and we get in here and we think that we're going to come to a resolution, but we're all humans, right? And experience is so subjective, and shit, we want to know yours. So, leave a comment. Bad partnership, good partnership. What does it look like for you? What is the means to get there if you have it? And what are some of the things to avoid if you currently don't, So, yeah.
So what we covered, I mean, we covered trusting the person that you're working with. That's obviously a big one. Gets thrown around a lot, but that's probably what we've delved into a little bit today of like what it is, what it isn't, and the effects it can have on your work and at a macro scale, your culture. Um, Diversifying skill sets. Again, you don't want 5 chefs in a kitchen, even if they're all your best friends. You
Yeah.
know, and what separates a business from a hobby is it's going to have to generate an income. It's going to have to be worth the time, the money, and the investment that you put into it, or that you're prepared to put into it. Those let's say those are the 3 big takeaways from this episode. And yeah, if you've got anything that we've missed, or some fucking guru on LinkedIn's got 6 amazing steps that we should really worry about, put them in the comments, right? So not bad for episode 2. What makes a decent business partner? So coming up next week, this is the infamous episode 3. We're going to talk about sexual harassment. Talking about sexual harassment in the workplace. Have you seen it? Have you been a part of it? Is Me Too overrated, or is it justified? Let's talk about it. And we're going to do our best to talk about it objectively, even as 2 bros. Fucking.
Yep.
2 bros talking about sexual harassment. I'm going to share one of my. Yep.
Can I say something? Not to interrupt on something special here, but the fucking whole bro thing. You know how many goddamn podcasts are out there that are 2 fucking dudes talking to each other,
or more.
90% of them, I'd say. So please get the fuck off of me with this bro culture. There's no fucking bro culture here. It's 2 guys having conversations. God damn it.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Yes, I agree. No. I agree. So this is what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about, and I'm going to share one of my personal experiences of being sexually harassed, and the story behind that, how it came to be, the outcome, and how it got really fucking nasty. And we'll talk about it.
Which it's weird. I'm not excited about, like in terms
Interested.
of I'm invested because I think it's going to be an eye opener for me. I think I'm one of those people that have been in that bucket, that even under a scenario that's similar, right? We talked about it earlier in this episode. It's not the same, and I have not experienced it. And you and I have talked about this deeply over the last couple of weeks with what we're both going through. If you haven't experienced it, you don't know. You just don't know.
Yeah, and like, can men even be sexually harassed? Right?
Come on.
And so
yes.
No, sure, like we all shrug and go, yeah, of course, but like, then when you sit down with your friends and you're at home and you're talking to your partner, or you're talking to your friends, or you're talking to the people at work, and go, well, how, can a girl sexually harass a guy? And there's a very different social dynamic and power dynamics and these sorts of things. I was about to
say, it's got to come into power dynamics, and that's not me being sexist or misogynist. I think that's the only type of leverage I think either side has. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Well, yeah, and generally I make that point. Generally, at the end of this, I kind of make that point where I feel that. Anyway, we'll get into it in the next episode. So we're saving all of that. So in the meantime, folks, you can listen for free and you can watch us build. So you can listen for free on Spotify and YouTube, Professional Misfits. Find us everywhere. You can get the audio podcast there. If you want to watch us build, you can go to Patreon. You can get all of the episodes and the complete season 1 archive
Mhm.
exclusive, HD, video. I think we're wearing pants. I can't be sure, but
Some of the
that's
episodes.
that's the gamble you take. That's the gamble you take. And also on the Patreon, you get all of the episodes 2 weeks in advance. So you get it all fresh and spicy as it comes out, fresh to you, as well as all the merch bonuses and the lives and everything else that sort of comes with it. So there's the Patreon pitch. In the meantime, I've been Chris.
I've been Brody.
You have. And you stay classy, Misfits. We'll see you on the next one.